In a haunting journey through grief and obsession, Reset unfolds the tragic mystery of a couple's relentless quest for the truth behind their daughter's death. As past and present collide, each revelation brings them closer to a devastating truth that challenges the boundaries of reality and despair. The series starts with Li calling the police about a bus explosion. We see a bus explode, then Li wakes up on the same bus, feeling scared. She accuses a man named Xiao of assault, causing a commotion. She insists on going to the police station, but eventually leaves the bus alone. Li tries to take Xiao as a witness, but he leaves in a taxi. While calling her mom, Li hears an explosion and gets hit by a motorcycle. She ends up in the hospital with a concussion and sees a dying person on her way to her room. Xiao is moved to a different room while Captain Zhang investigates a bus explosion, finding everyone dead. CCTV footage shows Li and Xiao leaving the bus just before it explodes. Detective Chang questions Li in the hospital. She struggles to remember why she left the bus, first citing a medical emergency, then claiming assault. Chang grows suspicious of her inconsistent story. However, Captain Zhang arrives and takes over the investigation. Suddenly, Li remembers everything. She explains that while on the bus to a bookstore, she sat next to Xiao, dozed off, and was startled awake by a phone ring and a bright light that seemed to burn her face. She thought it was a dream, but the phone rang again, and she saw the bus explode. Li realizes she's reliving the same moments repeatedly. In a panic to escape this loop, she tries to leave the bus, but it explodes again. Li tries several times to leave the exploding bus by faking medical emergencies, but only Xiao believes her. She notices the cause of the explosion. The bus swerves to avoid a motorcycle and hits an oil tank truck. On her sixth attempt, Li pretends to be molested to escape with Xiao, but he still gets hurt. Captain Zhang, skeptical of her story, learns Xiao is dying. Xiao dies, but then wakes up next to Li on the bus, indicating he's also stuck in the time loop. In episode 2, we see the accident from the motorcycle delivery driver's perspective. He's distracted by his phone, causing the crash that leads to the bus and taxi exploding. After dying, Xiao wakes up on the bus, realizing he's in the same cycle as Li. Initially freaked out, Xiao tries to leave the bus but fails. Eventually, he listens to Li, who explains the cycle and theorizes that Xiao is now trapped with her because she pulled him off the bus. Together, they devise a plan to prevent the crash. They warn the bus driver about the motorcyclist, successfully avoiding the accident. As they celebrate their victory, the episode ends with Xiao and Li crossing a bridge. Li and Xiao find themselves back in the time loop after hearing a phone ring and the bus exploding again. Li suspects a bomb on the bus, and using their only successful strategy, they get off the bus by pretending Xiao tried to assault her. Li calls the police about the bomb, but the bus explodes before they arrive. In episode 3, Li and Xiao meticulously map out their time loops. Discovering each reset sends them 1 minute back in time. Meanwhile, Captain Zhang and his team, having tracked them through CCTV, rush to catch them at a park tower. As they anticipate being caught by the police, Li suggests lying to the police, but Xiao insists on telling the truth, believing they can't be charged without proof. Eventually, Li and Xiao are separated for interrogation at the police station, with different officers assigned to investigate each of them. During their police interviews, Li stays quiet, while Xiao unsuccessfully tries to explain the time loop. Deputy Director Du orders drug tests and checks their backgrounds, finding no connection between them. Li eventually tells Captain Zhang everything. The police unsuccessfully try to make Li and Xiao accuse each other. Their drug tests are negative, confusing the police further. Deputy Director Du learns about a bomb on the bus and suspects Xiao, planning to bring in a time loop expert. In episode 4, Li and Xiao wake up on the bus and decide to warn the passengers about a bomb. When Li announces it, the bomb goes off. They wake up again, realizing the bomber is on the bus. They spot a suspicious man who regularly rides the bus but is missing this time. Li calls the police about the bomb, while Xiao follows the man. Xiao is upset that Li called the police without asking him. The police, including Detective Chang, try to stop the bomb on the bus but fail, and it explodes. Zhao feels guilty for being angry at Li. They see the police's failed attempt, and Li decides to surrender to the police. Zhao, feeling guilty, starts investigating the bombings on his laptop. Li is questioned by the police, but they don't believe her story. Director Du learns Zhao left the bus with Li and starts looking for him. Captain Zhang talks to Li, and during the call, Zhao asks about Li. She responds with a coded message, and the episode ends with Zhao telling her to go to sleep, hinting at their plan to reset the time loop. In episode 5, after Zhao tells Li to sleep, he tries to get sleeping pills, but ends up with melatonin and alcohol instead. Meanwhile, the police, led by Zhang, find Zhao and take him in their car, but he falls asleep and wakes up on the bus with Li. They apologize to each other and try to grab the bag of a masked man on the bus, thinking he's the bomber. Their attempts fail, and the bus explodes again. Next, they try to stop the masked man from getting on the bus. They succeed and check his bag, only to find a cat inside. They realize the man was hiding the cat because animals aren't allowed on the bus. Li and Zhao then go to a restaurant and figure out they both need to be asleep to reset the time loop. They watch news of the bus explosion and decide to visit the crash site to learn more about the victims. There, they meet the masked man again, who confronts them, realizing something strange is happening with Li and Zhao. The episode ends with the man asking them to come with him. In episode 6, the masked man takes Li and Zhao to his secret apartment with his cats. They tell him about the time loop, and he believes them, even suggesting they form a superhero team. They investigate the bus passengers and focus on one with a briefcase. The masked man named Lu has to leave but promises to help even outside the loop. Li and Zhao rent a hotel room and search social media for clues. They find comments about an old man with watermelons on the bus and decide to investigate him. The police discover there was a bomb on the bus and start looking for everyone involved, including Lu, Zhao, and Li. The police call them in for questioning. Zhao and Li choose not to tell the police about the time loop. Lu is interviewed first by the police, who suspect he's hiding something after he gives an unconvincing story about a misunderstanding with Li and Zhao. The episode ends with the police deciding to find out what Li and Zhao are hiding. In episode 9, it starts with a flashback showing Tao's neighbors reacting to an explosion at her house, which she dismisses as a stove incident. In the present, the police interview Li and Zhao separately, who both mention Ma as suspicious. Despite Zhang's suspicions, Deputy Director Do decides to release all three, but Zhang only lets Li go and has her followed. Outside the interview room, Li overhears Ma's ex-wife and son talking about the police suspecting revenge for the car accident. She talks to Ma's son, learning Ma came to the city to visit him. Lu's mom brings his diary to the police station, revealing Li and Zhao's heroics. Zhang reads it and orders all three into another interrogation room. Li and Zhao try to stick to their story but eventually tell the police about the time loop, which the police don't believe. When midnight strikes, Li and Zhao reset on the bus. They see Lu doesn't remember them, indicating he's not in the loop. They focus on Ma, with Zhao causing a scene to check Ma's watermelons for a bomb. They find no bomb, and Ma explains he brought the watermelons for his son, who he hasn't seen in years. Everyone on the bus enjoys the watermelons for a moment until a phone rings and the bus explodes. Li and Zhao reset again, and the episode ends as they focus on their next target. In episode 8, the story starts a few days before the bombing with Zhao, a passenger, being evicted after a dinner with friends. Back in the present, Li and Zhao are suspicious of Zhao with a suitcase and Tao with a plastic bag. They decide to check Tao first. Li sees a pressure cooker in Tao's bag, but Tao claims it's for carrying meat. As they plan to leave the bus, Zhao shows he only has clothes in his suitcase, ruling him out as the bomber. Zhao tries to grab Tao's pressure cooker, but she explodes the bus. Li and Zhao wake up and realize Tao is the bomber. Zhao tries to take the cooker again, but Tao stabs him and then Li, causing another explosion. Terrified after experiencing being stabbed, Zhao and Li decide to leave the bus at the next stop. However, Li tries one last time to grab the cooker. Zhao stops Tao from stabbing Li, but in the struggle, Tao gets stabbed. Zhao and Li leave the bus, but the bomb still goes off. The episode ends with the bus exploding as they walk away. In episode 9, it starts with a flashback showing Tao's neighbors reacting to an explosion at her house, which she dismisses as a stove incident. In the present, director Do and Zhang watch a bus stop security feed, seeing Zhao and Zhao before the bus explosion. Cheng investigates Zhao's background, learning about his job loss and a fire in his neighborhood where he saved Tao. Meanwhile, Zhao and Li, covered in Tao's blood, look for a hiding place. Zhao is in shock from having killed someone and feels guilty. Despite Zhao's suggestion to leave him, Li refuses, saying they're partners. They ditch their phones and hide in Lu's apartment. Li goes to get medical supplies for Zhao's cut hand, but sees Zhang nearby. She returns to warn Zhao, and they escape to another building's roof just as Zhang's team raids Lu's apartment. Zhao sees people online calling him a terrorist, but Li tells him not to worry. The episode ends with Zhao running away after telling Li to wait for him. In episode 10, victims' families are interviewed at the police station. Lu's father insists his son is alive, showing a moving tablet, leading Zhang to track it. Zhao and Li visit Zhao's friend, who tries to call the police. Zhao says he'll surrender and leaves. Zhang arrives later but only finds the tablet. At the beach, Zhao tells Li this might be their last cycle and suggests she sleep while he surrenders. They hug and Li falls asleep. Zhao ends up in a prison uniform in a dream, unable to wake up from the loop. They find themselves back on the bus, planning to alert passengers without raising Tao's suspicion. They try to evacuate the bus, but Tao detonates the bomb when everyone rushes out. Zhao and Li reset and try a different approach, enlisting Zhao and Lu's help to restrain Tao. They plan to throw the bomb into the river from a bridge. As they execute the plan, bus driver Wang reveals he's Tao's partner. He stops the bus, refusing to open the door. Zhao breaks a window to escape, but as he takes the bomb from Li, it explodes. Zhao and Li wake up again, and Li confronts Wang, asking why he's doing this. Before she gets an answer, the bus explodes again. In episode 11, Li and Zhao, stuck in their loop, decide to investigate further. Li recalls an incident suggesting bus driver Wang intentionally let her off the bus to avoid harm. They note the bus always explodes at 1:45 p.m. if nothing changes. They visit Wang's workplace, pretending to be students researching Wang's record as a driver, and sneak a look at his file. At Wang's home, they trick his roommate into letting them in by claiming Zhao is Wang's nephew. While Li distracts the roommate, Zhao searches Wang's room but only finds a broken phone. They learn that Wang moved to company housing to stay away from his wife, Tao, who is described as troublesome. Deciding to talk to the police, they plan to lie, claiming they overheard Tao mumbling about an explosion. They meet with director Du, Zhang, and Officer Yi, telling them Tao talked only to Wang. Zhang and Do find their information useful, but are suspicious of their motives, so they keep Li and Zhao at the station for further questioning. While being questioned, Li and Zhao hear a familiar ringtone, like the one before the bus bomb. Officer Yi leaves to answer it, and Li reacts visibly, alarming Zhang. He sends them to the break room under surveillance, still suspicious of their behavior. In episode 12, Zhang and Du review footage of Zhao and Li visiting the bus company office and Wang's home. An officer suspects they might be destroying evidence, but Zhang advises caution. They confiscate Zhao and Li's electronics, including a broken phone Zhao had. Zhang informs Zhao and Li about Wang and Tao's daughter, who died 5 years ago at 1:45 p.m., the same time the bus explodes. The daughter was killed by a car after getting off bus number 45 on a bridge, but the reason why the bus stopped and why she got off was never discovered. Zhao and Li understand the motive behind the bombings, but still don't know how to stop them. Li asks Zhang what the police would do if they knew about the bomb earlier. Zhang says they'd intervene but notes the time might be too short. Zhao then asks for Zhang's phone number. Waking up on the bus again, Zhao is struggling more each time, now bleeding from his nose. They devise a plan to slow the bus so the police can reach it in time. Zhao sends pictures of Tao to Zhang and fakes a situation to make Wang stop the bus, buying time. As they approach the bridge, Zhang's team, in civilian clothes, creates a blockade. Zhao overpowers Tao and everyone holds her down. Wang, wanting to die where his daughter did, speeds up towards the bridge. The police stop the bus, but with only seconds left, Zhao breaks a window and hands the bomb to Zhang, who runs off the bridge with it. The episode ends with the bomb exploding just over the bridge. Episode 13 starts with a flashback showing Wang and Tao after their daughter's death. They question a young woman on a bus about being harassed, but end up reported to the police. Since their daughter's death, they've been trying to solve the case themselves. In the present, Zhang tries to throw a bomb off a bridge, but the explosion critically injures him, and he's rushed to the hospital. Zhao, also in the hospital for a minor injury, discusses future plans with Li. However, their conversation is interrupted when Daikuofeth Young informs them that Zhang has died. Zhao is questioned about his knowledge of the bomb and Zhang's number, leading to more suspicions. Wang and Tao are taken for questioning but remain silent. They learn their daughter's case is being reopened. Wang explains their actions were due to despair and feeling ignored after their daughter's death. A flashback reveals Wang missing calls from his daughter, and a later scene shows Tao overhearing a conversation suggesting their daughter was harassed on the bus. The episode ends with Wang and Tao on a bridge, reflecting on their loss, and Tao's realization that the conversation she heard might have been imagined. In episode 14, there's a flashback to 5 years ago. Wang reluctantly signs the police report about his daughter's death, not believing its conclusions. Tao, struggling with grief, blames Wang every day. They move to the city, with Wang driving the same bus their daughter took, and Tao secretly building a bomb. Back in the present, Zhao and Li are in the hospital, pondering the mysteries they need to solve, focusing on what happened on the bus the day Wang's daughter died. Li contacts Mrs. Wu, the school counselor, who was also the girl's teacher. She suggests they check old campus blog records. They find a post about a molester on the bus and trace it to a woman named Liu. They visit Liu at her workplace. Initially, she denies writing the post, but when Li explains the situation, Liu admits she was also on the bus and was molested by a middle-aged man. She reveals she took a photo of him. The episode ends with this revelation. In episode 15, the show starts with a flashback to 5 years ago. We see a character named Liu on a bus, taking selfies at the back. She notices a middle-aged man trying to inappropriately touch Wang's daughter. Liu takes a photo of him, but he sees her and starts staring, making her uncomfortable. So she quickly gets off the bus at the next stop and calls her mom. Her mom advises her not to go to the police, fearing the man might retaliate after being released from jail. That night, Liu writes on a school forum about the true cause of the girl's death, sparking curiosity and demands for evidence from others. As she's about to share the photo she took, she reads a message accusing her of being guilty too, for not intervening. This leads to a flood of messages calling her a bad person for not acting. Feeling overwhelmed and guilty, Liu decides not to upload the photo. Back in the present, Liu shows the photo to Zhang and Li and shares that she's kept it in her cloud storage, offering them the password to access it. Zhang and Li return to the hospital, where Zhang tells Li to bring Zhao and meet him at the police station. Li and Zhao, in Zhao's hospital room, plan to prevent a bombing in case they're caught in another time loop. Xiao is unwell, so Li memorizes crucial numbers. Zhao comforts a worried Li, who fears they might forget each other, and they share a kiss. Back on the bus, only Li is awake. She can't wake Zhao and proceeds with her plan alone. She texts Zhang about the bomb, asks Zhao for help, and then informs Liu at the next stop. Meanwhile, Zhang and his team discreetly follow the bus, setting up a blockade at a bridge. Li spots Zhang from the bus window and alerts Zhao and Liu. Someone quickly disarms Tao, but she escapes and nearly activates a bomb on the bus. Zhao stops her, and other passengers help hold her down. As Wang, the bus driver, crashes into a blockade, he tries to detonate the bomb. Li shows him a photo of a molester and his daughter, convincing him to surrender the bomb by promising to clear his daughter's name. Zhang, arriving on the bus, also vows to catch the molester. With moments to spare, Zhang throws the bomb off the bridge, where it explodes harmlessly. Wang and Tao, now in custody, see their daughter smiling. Zhao and Li leave the police station, and Zhang, Questioning their knowledge eventually lets them go. Zhao receives a goodnight message from Li and responds with a good morning. Later, the bus passengers are honored as heroes. The molester is arrested, and Wang sees him in prison. The closing credits show the passengers happily reunited with their loved ones, and Zhao and Li pay respects at Wang's daughter's grave. If you enjoyed it, please show your support by liking and sharing this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more movie series recaps like this.